My name is Brian Battles with UPL, and today we're in the field with Dr. Ryan Bryant with UPL also to discuss Igrowth and IMIFLEX. And you know, Ryan, on the way here, just thinking about 30 years of the troublesome weeds and troublesome grasses that we've had in grain sorghum, and now it's such an exciting time that we've got something that we can really talk to the growers about and help them with another tool. So we've heard a lot of buzz about IMIFLEX this last year, and for those, there's probably a lot of people that haven't had a chance to be on the internet or maybe attended one of our meetings. Can you give us a really broad view of where we're at today to just really bring everybody up to speed on what's going on with Igrowth and IMIFLEX?
Sure. So a bit of a broad overview with IMIFLEX, but what IMIFLEX is, it is the only certified IMI chemistry for use within the Igrowth system. And IMIFLEX, it's a group 2 herbicide. So one of our ALS inhibitors, the active ingredient is imazamox. And what you can expect with IMIFLEX is grass and broadleaf weed control. And with that, you also get a really outstanding period of residual control, which really helps in terms of being able to use it as a pre-emergence herbicide or use it as a post-emergence herbicide. Whether you're using it at either of those two timings, you still get residual from that application. And so you're not just controlling the weeds you see, but you're also going to have that soil activity that will pick up those later flushes of weeds to come. As of this past December, IMIFLEX is fully registered. We've got to see IMIFLEX and Igrowth go out on hundreds of thousands of acres throughout the United States this past summer, and see a lot of growers witness and experience really tremendous success with these programs. Whether that's battling some of their toughest weeds, such as Texas panicum, our grassy sandburrs, foxtails, and crabgrass, we've seen that combination of IMIFLEX and Igrowth provide exceptional levels of control and really bring profitable production to acres that have long been troubled to the point where that production just wasn't possible with sorghum.
Now, you talk about IMIFLEX, but I mean, is it IMIFLEX alone? Does it have to have tank partners? You know, we talked a lot about as far as a pre-application versus a post-application. Kind of tell me, and I'm going to use the term the good, better, best. What's the skinny on this?
Of course, yeah. So good, better, best may be something you've heard us reference quite a bit if you've made it to some of our talks over this past year. But really with IMIFLEX, employing it in a program approach is where you're really going to optimize that success of Igrowth and those herbicide applications. So having a foundation on the pre side and also utilizing a strong post-emergent program, whether using IMIFLEX pre or post, is going to be critical for that success. And those growers that have witnessed that success have really taken that mentality and employed a full program approach. And that's where we really see the flexibility of IMIFLEX come into play. So with IMIFLEX, we can apply it either as a pre-emergence application or as a post-emergence application. So we can tailor those recommendations and herbicide programs to the field and find where it fits best within the traditional use patterns of chemistries on those sorghum acres.
Dr. Bryant, we really talked about the pre and the post already, but you know, what is the best optimal application for that grower? I mean, and let's really get past the weeds and let's get deep into really what would be the best tank partners and the chemistry to go with that pre and the potentially what may happen in a post application.
Of course, yeah. So that's something always that's really important to understand is where the herbicides and where the technologies you're using fit best. So we can very much tailor that down to a field by field case. So we'll start first with the use of IMIFLEX pre. So for using IMIFLEX pre, we've seen really heightened activity on some of our key weeds, such as Texas panicum and our foxtail species. And when it comes to those programs, IMIFLEX does really well when it's paired with another group 15 chemistry, such as Moccasin 2+, which is UPL's formulation of usmatolochlor. For heightened broadleaf activity, you can also throw in a formulation of mesotrione, such as Motif. And it's that three-way program of an IMIFLEX, Moccasin, and Motif that does really well from a pre-emergent standpoint in weed control. Now, if we're going for the post-application of IMIFLEX, we see really good success when we target those weeds when they're small. And we still need to have a good foundation in terms of a pre-emergent program. So what that'll look like is still employing a group 15 chemistry like Moccasin 2+, throw some atrazine in the tank with it and optimize our adjuvant package as well. And growers will see really good success employing those programs based on what weeds they're trying to battle.
Now, let's talk a little bit. I know we had some sensitive situations across a lot of the geography where we got some ALS resistance. Can you help me out? Give me a real good handle of what we should do in some of those ALS situations.
Of course. So ALS resistance, as we know, it's widespread throughout the United States. And battling those types of weeds, having a program approach is critical. So not relying solely on IMIFLEX, for that program, we still want to reinforce the fact that having a comprehensive herbicide program from start to finish is where you're really going to optimize success on those acres where resistance could be an issue.
Dr. Brian, again, we've talked about the tank partners and the importance of the tank partners and all those things in there, but you know, I can't leave out the fact that there's got to be some surfactants in there from a standpoint of, do we do a COC, an MSO, a non-ionic? What are the situations? What are the best, again, the good, better, best on that deal also?
Of course, yeah. So just like with IMIFLEX and any other herbicide program, having our adjuvants in the proper place at the right time is really critical for its success. So with IMIFLEX, with our traditional tank mixes, what you're going to see is having a crop oil or a methylated seed oil, or MSO, in the tank at a 1 to 2% volume per volume ratio is really going to help in terms of optimizing that control. But we can't leave out the nitrogen source as well. So including AMS at about the 12 to 17 pounds per 100 gallons of water, or having UAN in the tank at about 2.5% volume per volume. Having those combinations with IMIFLEX and your respective tank mix partners is really where that success will be optimized. Now, there are some things we need to pay attention to though. So if mixing IMIFLEX with an auxin type chemistry like 2,4-D or dicamba, we want to be sure that we leave that oil component out of the tank mix and replace that with more of a non-ionic surfactant type adjuvant.
You know, something else I did see, and as you were talking, it kind of just brought back some memories as far as, you know, what should be the volume? Or can we get down to 5 gallons per acre, or should we be higher up on that, maybe closer to 20 gallons per acre?
Of course, yeah, so that's definitely something to pay attention to. So IMIFLEX is a systemic chemistry, but still having good coverage is key. I really like to see it in at least 15 gallons of water per acre, but if we are in a no-till setting, which we do see as we move into our more northern geographies, bumping that carrier volume up to 20 gallons per acre with our respective tank mixes is really going to help in terms of getting better coverage and getting better activity, especially on our more troublesome grassy weeds that we're battling.
Dr. Bryant, we've talked about the pre, we talked about the post, but what can we expect from a standpoint of that broadleaf spectrum in efficacy of control with IMIFLEX and the tank partners?
Of course. So just like Brian had mentioned, we've talked a lot about grasses, and that's really what's so exciting about this technology, is having a newfound ability to get after a lot of these troublesome grasses when combining IMIFLEX and Igrowth. But we can't overlook our broadleaf weeds. They can rob yield just as our grassy weeds do. And the great part about IMIFLEX is that it's not just a grass-specific chemistry. It does have really good broadleaf activity on a list of some of our most troublesome weeds. And we continue to see that success with IMIFLEX on both grasses and broadleaf weeds when we plug it into a program approach. Solid foundation with pre, solid foundation built on that with a post application. And whether we're plugging IMIFLEX in pre or post, still having that program from start to finish is where we see the best success, whether that's grass or broadleaf weeds.
Dr. Bryant, again, we've talked about the pre and we've talked about the post, but what is the best application from that standpoint that you see and what you've seen over this last year from the geography? And we've covered from South Texas all the way up to Dakota, so we're encompassing a broad spectrum area. So what have you seen that's best in that area?
For sure. So just as you mentioned, I mean, IMIFLEX and Igrowth, it's gone out over hundreds of thousand acres, all the way from the southern tip of Texas as we move north throughout the United States. And it's that flexibility we see with IMIFLEX, having the ability to use it pre or use it post, that we really want to understand and find where it fits best in our system. So with those pre-emergence applications, we definitely see a higher rate of activity, especially on our more troublesome weeds like we mentioned earlier with Texas panicum, as well as our foxtail species, to name a few. And so if we're using it in that pre-emergence application, what we really need to focus on is applying IMIFLEX and those respective tank mix partners before or shortly after planting, but prior to crop and weed emergence, and using it in that traditional pre-emergence timing. Now, if we go the post route with IMIFLEX, what's really critical is our timing in relation to that weed size. We have a wide application window with IMIFLEX where we can apply it before that crop even emerges, all the way up to 20 inches in height of the Igrowth sorghum. But when it comes to those weeds, we really need to pay attention to them and target them when they're small with IMIFLEX. So what that really looks like is applying that tank mix partner with IMIFLEX prior to 2 to 3 inches in weed height, having that proper adjuvant package in place, and ensuring that we've got that foundational pre-program there as well. And that's what will really optimize the control of those types of application timings with IMIFLEX.
Dr. Brian, I mean, we talked about tank partners, we've talked about the chemistry, we've talked about a number of things, and as you're talking, I mean, one of the things that really popped up in my mind is the rotation and the importance of rotation and what Igrowth and IMIFLEX does for us in a rotation cycle. Can you kind of expand on that one for us?
Of course. So, with rotations, understanding how to properly use them and how to employ them on your field, that's going to be imperative for long-lasting weed control and sustainability of any system. And with using Igrowth and IMIFLEX, those traditionally will not impact any of the traditional rotations used in sorghum production. So an application of IMIFLEX, it still means that we have a friendly rotation interval back to cotton or corn the following year, as well as wheat if we meet certain soil and pH parameters. And what I should mention too is that if we are looking to plant any clear-field crop, the rotation of those crops is any time following an application of IMIFLEX to Igrowth sorghum.
I can see where that really goes back to the good, better, best, and how that all that program literature really explains it and explains it very well. Thank you very much.